Shalom, 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 everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to Reading with Shilo. Reading with Shilo. Let me fix this camera. Anyway, Reading with Shilo. We're here to get chapter 2. Chapter 2 of The Valley of the Dry Bones by Dr. Rudolphf R. WINDSOR. Rudolphf R. WINDSOR. And it's sounding like, or it's looking like it's going to be a pretty good one. The Bible, an African book. So we're going to see what Mr. Rudolphf R. WINDSOR has to say about the Bible, an African book. Ooh, it's hot. Some hot chocolate. It's cold. But I hope everybody's doing good. Welcome to all the new subscribers. Welcome. We're going to get right into it in just a second. I need to get a little something. Here. The Valley of the Dry Bones by Dr. Rudolphf R. WINDSOR. Chapter 2. We're going to try to get it all the way. We're going to try to all the way do chapter 2 today. I think I can get through it. The Bible, an African book. And he has some maps there. A map down here. It says from Israel to the Niger and from Portugal to Africa. Okay. He says Jews. Jews in Ethiopia, Yemen Jews. The Bible, an African book. Ooh, that thing hot. All right, chapter 2. Let's get going. The Bible is an African book. The Bible is an African book. Black people wrote the Bible, and they wrote it primarily about themselves. As I shall demonstrate, then you can judge for yourselves. The Bible. Let me get mine. This is right here. Which is right here. My Bible. And just in case. We're going to see. We might have to refer to it. The Bible, an African book. Yeah, I might have to take my head. I might have to take this on my head. The Bible is an African book. Black people wrote the Bible, and they wrote it primarily about themselves. Black people wrote the Bible, and they wrote it primarily about themselves. I have an notation. As I shall demonstrate, then you can judge for yourselves. The first nation mentioned in the Bible is an African nation called Ethiopia in Genesis 2, verse 13. Oh, man. Genesis 2, verse 13. All right. Genesis 2, verse 13. The book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 13. And the name of the second river is Gihon. The same is it that compasses the whole land of Ethiopia. It's talking about the Garden of Eden. The nation of Ethiopia mentioned here was part of the Garden of Eden. Take notice that the African Hebrews did not mention anything about England, France, or Germany. But Ethiopia was the first nation mentioned. Just think of it. According to the white supremacists, the black people are supposed to be a people without a civilization, without a history. But yet, the good book connects black people with the creation story. And the first civilization, the Garden of Eden, was located somewhere between Asia and Africa, where the Ethiopians dwelled. According to the European writer Max Hindle, this garden was located on the sunken continent of Lemuria, or Lemuria, east of Africa. This was where the first man and woman were created, Lemuria. One of the ancient names of Ethiopia is Cush. This name is mentioned in Genesis 10, chapter 10, verse 6 through 10. These Ethiopians lived not only in Africa, but throughout the Middle East and Asia. Herbert Wendt, the German writer, confirmed this point when he said, Asia was the cradle of the black race. The Hebrew scriptures related to us that the first great cities were constructed by the sons of Cush, the great Nimrod. Man. You can check the word Cush in any good dictionary. It was these Cushites who built the great city of Babylon and other cities in Africa and Asia. Let's see. Let's see what the books that I have say. Let's see if it says anything about Cush. 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 This is an old Encyclopedia America. Let's see if it says anything. Cuba. Here we go. Let's see. Cushman. Cushites. Cushing. Cush. It does have something. Let's see what it says about Cush. Or Cush. Cush was an ancient kingdom south of Egypt, first mentioned in Egyptian writings about 1950 BC, when it stood between the second and third cataracts of the Nile in what is now Sudan. By 1000 BC, Cush had broken away from Egyptian domination, and its capital was Napata. At the fourth cataract, Cush conquered Egypt, establishing Egypt's 25th dynasty, which ruled from about 736 to 657 BC. Assyrians had conquered Egypt by 657 BC, but the rule of Cush endured at Napata. moving the capital upstream to Meroe in 538 BC. Kush preserved its Egyptian type of civilization until about 350 AD, when Meroe was sacked by Christians from the Naxum, or Ethiopia. Kush was also called Kush, Nubia, and Ethiopia. Kush. I guess it does. Stuff. Let's see what the dictionary say about Kush. 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 It has Kushite. It don't have Kush. Maybe it'll do it with a K. K-U. You can see it down there with K-U. K-U-S-H. Kush. K-U. Ku Klux Klan is in there. Kush is not in this dictionary. Oh well. That's something. You can check the word Kush in any good dictionary. So I guess that's not a good one. Kush ain't in that. Kushite is, or Cushitic. Cushitic was. But Kush was definitely in the Encyclopedia Americas. It was these Kushites who built the great city of Babylon and other cities in Africa and Asia. So far, we have seen that biblical scenes and stories took place in an African world with African characters. Having African ancestors, the people were mostly black or brown. The land known as Palestine was called the land of Canaan in the ancient times in Genesis 10, chapter 10, verse 15 through 20. And the Canaanites were the blood brothers of the Cushites and the Mizraimites, the Egyptians, or Mizraimites, the Mizraimites, or Mizraimites. In Genesis 10 and 6. From the beginning, these African Canaanites lived in southern Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, then known as Sidon, Palestine, and Jordan. Ancient historians did not use names of continents such as Asia or Africa. They used national or tribal names. Nevertheless, the African in the Middle East and the ones in Egypt, Ethiopia, and Kenya were descended from the same family. In light of this old information, Palestine is and much of the Middle East would seem to be an extension of the African continent, just as Madagascar is part of Africa. We must not let European races define history for us. They have made a terrible mess of it already. We must define history for ourselves and control our destiny. If we don't control our destiny, we shall always be controlled by others. African people and places. Another important part that proves that the Bible is an African book is the multiplicity of times that African places and people are mentioned. When compared to the times non-African people are mentioned, the word Rome and its derivations. Oh man, derivations are mentioned only 20 times in the Bible, and not once in the Hebrew Scriptures, the Old Testament. And the word Greece and its derivations are mentioned only 26 times in the Bible, and four times in the Old Testament. My conclusion is that these two European countries are used only 4 times in the entire Old Testament. This is next to nothing. Now let us compare European words with African people in places used in the Bible. The African city of Sidon and the Sidonians are mentioned more than 17 times. Ethiopia is mentioned 40 times. The African city of Tyre and the Tyrians are mentioned more than 57 times. The African people called the Canaanites are mentioned in the Bible more than 153 times. And the Egyptians are mentioned more than 727 times. If you add up the number of times that African people are placed and places are mentioned in the Bible, you will find that the references about African people exceed more than 1,000 times. Wow, that is incredible. If someone read a book and found in it information mostly about the German people, German culture, and German history and geography, we would have to conclude that the book was primarily a German book. Likewise, we find plurality. That's not how you ask. Some more what? Some more what? Come on, I'll give you some of mine. Flashlight. I did. Let's wipe it off. Oh, let me get this. I apologize. I didn't mean to waste it on you. Let's wipe it off. There you go. Good to go. You're welcome, sir. All right. Must have been good, huh? Likewise, we find a plurality of information about African people and Black people in the Bible. Therefore, we must conclude that it is an African book. When the writers of the Bible mentioned that the Hebrews, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, and Moses went down into Egypt, they meant that they went into Africa. Egypt is in Africa. The Egyptians enslaved the Hebrew people for 400 years. These Hebrews were not Europeans, but African Hebrews. These people were not Europeans, but African Hebrews. Moses, the Hebrew liberator and lawgiver, led his people out of the African nation of Egypt to the wilderness of the Sinai, the peninsula east of Egypt, like Palestine. Sinai is a part of Africa. The prophet Ezekiel knew this when he said, like as I, the Lord pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of Egypt, in Ezekiel 20 and 36. Ezekiel 20 and 36. Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 36. Like as I pleaded with your father in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, saith the Lord God. The wilderness of the land of Egypt is the peninsula of Sinai. Hence, it is part of Africa. The color of the Israelites. The color of the Israelites. There is one question often asked of me. Were the ancient Israelites a white people in the Bible days? The answer to this question is an absolute no. I have no doubt about my convictions, and no reason to lie. The Europeans had the reason to lie, to develop white supremacy. They lied about the truth after they made it illegal for a black man to learn to read during slavery times. This event took place when the whites prevented the blacks from defending themselves. They reinforced their lie by placing white pictures throughout the Bible, placing white pictures on religious calendars, and producing lily white television programs and religious movies. As a result of the indigenous or the insidious overt deception, the modern generations, white and black, just assumes without the facts that the ancient Hebrews were white. Does the Bible indicate definitely the color of the Hebrews? The question is important because the Hebrews are the central figures upon whom the Bible is based. The Hebrews are the central figures upon whom the Bible is based. The Hebrews are the central figures. I maintain that Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Ishmael, the father of the Arabs, Moses, Solomon, Jeremiah, Daniel, Jesus, and the entire nation of the Hebrews were a black people. And I shall give you proof to support my position. Some writers contend that the Hebrews were white people, but they don't offer any proof. I think that it is a shame when a writer makes a statement yet doesn't have enough respect for the reader to invent some proof. To invent E-V-I-N-C-E, invents some proof. I think it means to bring up, to invents. Invents. Events, not invents. Events. Events. There we go. Events. To vanquish, win a point, constitute outward evidence of, or to display clearly. I think that it is a shame when a writer makes a statement, yet doesn't have enough respect for the reader to display clearly some proof, to evince some proof. To constitute outward evidence clearly. I think to display clearly some proof, or events some proof. For most of my evidence, I shall cite the Bible. It is possible for me to render many other historical sources. However, since we are dealing with the Bible, the superlative proof should be the Bible. Let the good book speak for itself. The Bible is a book that many read, but few understand or know the various races or their characteristics. Joseph was one of the 12 of sons of Jacob. Joseph was one of the 12 of the sons of Jacob. After he had been sold as a slave to an Egyptian. He eventually became viceroy of the nation and was second to the pharaoh in authority. When a famine struck this part of the world, Jacob sent 10 of his sons to the neighboring African country of Egypt to buy corn. Arriving in Egypt, the 10 brothers came before Joseph. Joseph recognized his brothers. Oh, look at my people. Look at my people. The boys don't notice me. Look at my people. Ooh. Look at Reuben, looking good. Boy, my. The 10 brothers came before Joseph. Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. Genesis 42, verses 1 through 8. Since the Egyptians were a black people, Joseph had to be black also. If he had been white, the 10 brothers would have recognized him easily among the black Egyptians. Who was that white boy? Genesis 42. Let me see, 1 through 8. Genesis 42. The book of Genesis, chapter 42, verse 1. Now, when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, where do ye look one upon another? And he said, behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get you down thither, and buy for us some thence, that we may live and not die. And Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy corn in Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob sent not with his brethren, for he said, lest peradventure mischief befall him. And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among them that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor over the land, and it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, whence come ye? And they said, from the land of Canaan to buy food. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him. It could have been the white boy. At this time, the famine was so great in the Middle East that Jacob and all his children and grandchildren and their wives went into the African country of Egypt. Genesis chapter 46, verse 26 through 28. And they dwelled there for over 400 years. Genesis 15, verse 13, and Exodus 12, verse 40. No white Jews were enslaved in Africa under black people at this time, only African Hebrews. At this point, I would like to explain to the reader that Africa was the birthplace of the Hebrew nation. This birth was not in Europe, nor in some remote place in Asia, but on the Nile River in Africa. In light of this information, I say to everyone who has become brainwashed or been brainwashed, that he should cease thinking that the original Hebrews were some color other than black. My reason for asserting that Mother Africa was the birthplace of the Hebrew nation is the fact that 70 persons went to Egypt. Exodus chapter 1, verse 5. And when they departed over 3,300 years ago, their number excluding women and children was 600,000. Sociologists know that there are always more women and children in a population. And when we count the women and children, we have over 1 million people. This was the Hebrew nation that was born in Mother Africa, a nation born in an African environment, born in an African culture, born in an African learning center, born speaking the Hebrew, African, and Egyptian languages. Moses was born here in Africa as a Hebrew, but reared as an Egyptian. He was educated among the royal family in one of the most advanced countries of the world. After living in Africa for over 400 years, the children of Israel went out of Egypt a mixed multitude in Exodus chapter 12, verse 38. The mixed multitude was caused by sexual relations between the Hebrew tribes and the Egyptian people. In addition, other African people who were living in Egypt joined the children of Israel in their struggle for freedom. And these Africans departed from Egypt with the people of Israel. When Moses instituted the feast of the Passover in Egypt, and how many people keep that? Read the Bible. How many people keep Passover? When Moses instituted the feast of the Passover in Egypt by the command of God, he had these other Africans in mind when he said the following: "And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and thou shalt neither vex a stranger." Exodus 22 and 21, and Exodus 12 and 48. Yes, it is clear to our understanding that it was the Hebrews and other Africans, the strangers, not born Hebrews, who were celebrating an African Hebrew feast, Passover, in an African country before it was celebrated anywhere else in the world. So we see that the first Hebrews were in Africa, and the divine creative force first appeared to the Africans and to Moses in an African land and not in Europe. So, if you know your Bible and history, it should not seem strange to you that Black Hebrews exist, because the first Hebrews were Black and they developed as a people in Africa. Do you need any more proof to be convinced that the Bible was written by Africans and that the ancient Israelites were a Black people? I think that some of you do need more evidence, because you have been so strongly brainwashed by white supremacy's motion pictures like the Ten Commandments that some of you don't know the nation of Egypt is in Africa. The curse of leprosy. The curse of leprosy. There are three kinds of leprosy mentioned in the Bible. Number one, domestic leprosy, found in the houses. Number two, material leprosy, found in garments. And number three, biological or physical leprosy, contracted by human beings. We are only concerned here with biological leprosy. As I mentioned in my first book, From Babylon to Timbuktu, pages 24 and 25, the leprosy invariably stated in the Bible showed itself when the skin turns red, but mostly white. It is an established fact that let me see. This is his other book, the book he's talking about, From Babylon to Timbuktu. He says pages 24 and 25. So he's talking about the origin of the white race. You gotta go pee pee. You gotta go pee pee in the toilet. Excuse me, right quick. Excuse me. Let's go pee in the toilet. Come on. bad. Excuse me. I'm not going to read 2 pages. As I mentioned in my first book, From Babylon to Timbuktu, pages 24 and 25, the leprosy invaluably stated in the Bible showed itself when the skins turned red, but mostly white. It is an established fact that the Bible always mentions leprosy. It is an established fact that the Bible always mentions leprosy in the context of the skin turning white because of a disease or in relationship to some specific wrongdoings. If you don't believe that the ancient Israelites were black after I explained to you about the leprosy, plague, and curse, then you are either grossly stupid or you don't want to face reality because it disturbs your deep-seated fixed ideas that you don't want to change. It is written in the 13th chapter of Leviticus, when a man shall have in the skin of his flesh a rising, a scab, or a bright spot, and it be in the skin of his flesh, like the plague of leprosy, that he shall be brought to Aaron the priest, or one of the sons, or to one of the sons of the priest. And in the 4th verse, if the bright spot be white in the skin of his flesh, the priest shall shut up him for his plague, for he has the plague 7 days. In the 6th verse, we have, and the priest shall look on him again the 7th day. And behold, if the plague be somewhat dark, and the plague spreadeth not in his skin, the priest shall pronounce him clean. It is but a scab, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. In the 2nd and 4th verses is mentioned a bright spot in the skin. A bright spot means a lighter spot than the regular dark brown skin. The explanation of the 4th verse is this. If the bright spot becomes white or whiter, then the leprosy is spreading over the body. Remember, Moses was speaking to the Israelites in the wilderness of Sinai, a part of the northeastern Africa. Moses said in the 6th verse, that when the priest shall look on him on the 7th day, and behold, the plague has become somewhat dark or darker, and it did not spread from the priest. It did not spread then. The priest shall pronounce him clean because the skin is getting darker, like his regular or original skin. Moses and Aaron, in the 38th verse, speak of bright spots and white spots. The black man or woman with these white spots covering some part of their body is a partial leper. However, once the plague of the whiteness has covered his entire body, from his head to his feet, the leper is clean. The leper is clean. He has completely changed colors like an albino. The albino was once black, but his hair and skin have changed to white, and his eyes are pink. The people who had leprosy in the Bible are classified as albinos, and these albinos are the only white Hebrews that ever existed in ancient times and were in the minority. The Bible never speaks of a white person turning black, but only of a black person turning white. Therefore, we can conclude that the black man was the first on earth, Other places in the Bible where it mentions that the various people had turned white in Numbers 12 and 10 and 2 Kings chapter 5 verse 27. Numbers 12 and 10. This is a book. The book of Numbers chapter 12 verse 10. And the cloud departed from off of the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. 2 Kings 5 and 27. 2 Kings 5 and 27. The book of 2 Kings, chapter 5, verse 27. The leprosy, therefore, on Naaman shall cleave unto thee, and unto thy seed forever. And he sent out from his presence a leper as white as snow. Naaman. Leprosy is a disease caused by misdeeds. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15 and 58, verse 61. Afro hairstyles in the Bible. Afro hairstyles in the Bible. The great prophets of old gave us a clear indication of what the Israelites looked like in their days and what the Messiah or great judge will look like in the future. John the Revelator and Daniel the prophet described him as having hair like pure wool and wheels or feet of brass, as if they were burned in the furnace. The African man was born with woolly hair, and the man of African descent has feet like brass, as if they were burnt in a furnace. The reader will note that a classify, I'm tripping. The reader will note that I classify all Black people, including Black Hebrews, as people of African descent, just like all white people are of European descent. Whether they live in the Americas, Asian, or South Africa, Black people in the Bible are in the vast majority, not the minority. They are mentioned directly and indirectly. An example where they are mentioned indirectly would be in regards to leprosy, turning white. All right. Let's go to a couple of the verses. It says most biblical personalities in Hebrews were Black like this man. Read Song of Solomon 1 and 5. Let's go there right quick. Book of Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5. The book of Songs of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5. I am black but comely, O daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Look not upon me because I am black, because the sun had looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but mine own vineyard have I not kept. Look not upon me, because I am black. Lamentations 4 and 8. 5 and 10. Job 30 and 30. Let's go to Job 30. Let's have Job 30. Job 30 and 30. My skin is black upon me. My bones are burned with heat. Ezekiel 1 and 7. Ezekiel 1 and 7. The book of Ezekiel, chapter 1, verse 7. And their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their foot was like the sole of the calf's foot, and there sparkled like the color of varnished brass. Of burnished brass. All right. Ouch. I closed the wrong book. So I gave a picture of a man right here. And I was reading versions of the Bible. One example of a black person mentioned directly in the Bible is a woman speaking in the Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5 and 6. She said, I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem. The word comely means beautiful. So you see, the same black and beautiful was fashionable and popular 3,000 of years ago. And it did not start first in the 1960s and 70s because we had albinos among the ancient Hebrews. The intermarriages between the Hebrews and the albinos produced every shade of color between white and black. These colors included high yellow, caramel color, brown, and dark brown. My color, my caramel. I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem. Look not upon me because I am black, because the sun has looked upon me or shone upon me. Why does this young woman make this statement? Well, you see, the color of this woman was entirely black, and the color of the other women in King Solomon's chambers were brown. These were women that lived for the most part in the palace of Solomon. The woman that said I am black was used to the outdoor life and taking care of the vineyard. Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 6. Therefore, darkened by the sun, then she was brought into the king's chambers. The Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 4. As one of the women of Solomon, when the daughters of Jerusalem saw her, they snickered. As a result, the woman of the vineyard answered, I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem. The only person that can turn pure black must be black in the first place. A pure white person cannot turn black. A pure white person cannot turn black. He can turn red. Then the skin will peel off and he will suffer great pain. He can turn red. Then the skin will peel off and he will suffer great pain because he does not have the coloration or pigmentation in the skin. Now, let's see what other nationalities and other historical sources say about the color of the Hebrew Israelites. A Roman historian named Tacitus, who lived about 90 AD, said that many assert that the Jews were an Ethiopian race. J.A. Rogers commented that for the Romans to have considered these Ethiopians, is a clear indication of their color because the Ethiopians were black. So we got some pictures here. It says the top left is the Falasha families in Ashdod in Ethiopia. Top left. Be up here. Top right, another Hebrew family in Israel. One got them froze on it. I'll keep going. You got some more pictures. The Moors from Africa ruled Spain and Portugal for about 700 years, and the Jews were in these countries even longer. When the Duchess El Abrantes, the wife of Napoleon's ambassador to Portugal, was in that country, she commented that the Judeans and the Moors look alike. At this time, the Judeans were so dark that many whites thought that all Judeans were black. King John II of Portugal deported many of his Judeans to West Africa or Angola, and many settled in the West Indies. John Bigelow, who went to Jamaica in 1850, saw the offspring of these Judeans and said that they were black. The evidence showed that the Judeans in Europe up to 1850 were virtually black but died out. As a result, the white servants of these blacks converted to Judaism and became the new Jews. The white servants of these blacks. After convincing many people that the ancient Israelites were a black people, some of them replied, "The color doesn't matter. It is the Spirit of God that counts." Pertaining to this issue, I cannot agree with them more because God does not observe the color, but observes the deeds of man. And God will indeed judge those racists who distorted the truth. Those that say that color does not matter. Don't tell it to me. Tell it to the white racists. Convince them that color doesn't matter. They are the ones who lied about the black man's history in order to make blacks feel inferior and to make whites feel superior. I don't need to deal with the terrible psychological damage the whites caused the black race when they instituted slavery and discrimination. The color issue has cost many lives on slave ships and on plantations and in every city in America. It made the black man powerless, weak not only to his household, but powerless socially, economically, and intellectually, and politically as well. And since the color issue has done all of this, it does matter. If, by regaining a true knowledge of our history, we gain racial pride, self-esteem, a love of self, and a desire to cooperate with each other, this would be the first step towards the development of an Afro-American community. The tentacles of color issue have not passed away. They leave their recognizable scars over the world, even over the motherland of Africa. The wrong was set in motion centuries ago. This problem can only be corrected by revealing the truth and not sweeping it under the rug. Every man should be given recognition of his individual worth and contradictions, even about his true history. The color issue is an injustice, and it does matter. Any kind of injustice matters. If I murdered your relatives, would you say it didn't matter? If I rob and steal from you, are you going to say it does not matter? God forbid. For if you say that the color issue does not matter, which is an injustice, are you Negroes willing to take the blame for all the wrongs committed against black people by white racists, so that these racists on the judgment day may enter into paradise and you into hell? It is, man, if color doesn't matter, if you say that the color issue doesn't matter, which is an injustice, are you Negroes willing to take the blame for all the wrongs committed against black people by white racists, so that these racists on the judgment day may enter into paradise and you into hell? It has been over 100 years since the abolition of slavery. Have you ever wondered why there are few black doctors, policemen, lawyers, engineers, and so much disunity, so much illiteracy, so much unemployment, so much crime, so much distrust, so much so little racial pride, so few black businesses, and so many slums in black neighborhoods? The answer to these problems will be dealt with in this section. Moses, the African Hebrew Messiah and leader, prophesied to his African Hebrew brothers and sisters over 3,000 years ago. He reiterated to them the laws of the universal creator. Moses spoke to them like a father and warned them to keep God's laws. And if they would do them, he said, they would be blessed above all nations on the earth. Deuteronomy 28:1. Deuteronomy 28:1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I commanded thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. But, verse 15, Deuteronomy 28, verse 15, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. In 15 verses, Moses said that they would be blessed in health, agriculture, commerce, cattle, industry, lending money, prestige, and victory in battle over their enemies. And on the other hand, Moses made it very explicit to his people that if they didn't obey God's laws, which are conducive to an orderly society, free of crimes, then all these plagues, misfortunes, hardships, and curses shall come upon thee until they change and do what is right. Deuteronomy 28, verse 15. We're gonna read. Let's read the blessings. Let's read the blessings and the curses. It's way more curses than it is blessings. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day. Excuse me. What up, Peter? More live. All right. (28:1). And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I commanded thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations. And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field. Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, and the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Blessed shall be thy basket and thy store. Blessed shall thou be when thou comest in, and blessed shalt thou be when thou goest out. The Lord shall cause thine enemies to rise up against thee, to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee one way, and flee before thee 7 ways. The Lord shall command the blessings upon thee in the storehouses, and in all that thou settest thine hand unto. And he shall bless thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. The Lord shall establish thee an unholy people unto himself, as he had sworn unto thee. If thou shalt keep the commandments of the Lord thy God and walk in his ways, and all people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of thee. And the Lord shall make thee plenteous in goods, in the fruits of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy ground, in the fruit of the land, which the Lord sware unto thy fathers to give thee. The Lord shall open unto thee his great treasure, the heaven, to give the rain unto the land in his season, and to bless all the work of thine hand. My page turn. I need to get some sutures. What's up, my boy? Oh Lord. You got poop in your pull up. Go give me a pull up. Yes, sir. Go give me a pull up. Go give me a pull up and I'll change it. Go give me a pull up so I can change it. Give me a pull up. I got some wipes. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. Shit, you sure borrowing now? We trying to borrow. And the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail, and thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath. If that thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day to observe and to do them, to observe and to do them. To observe and to do them. And thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, to the right hand or to the left, to go after other gods and to serve them, which a lot of you are about to do, celebrating Christmas and all this other shit. We only got a little bit left. We really only got a little bit left. Let me change this pull up right quick. Come on. You got your pull up? Let's get it. Change this pull up. Oh, get it. Hello. Get money down. Got it. Come on, get up here. Bam! You got it. Thank you. Yo, Peter called. Oh, boy, you're funky. Oh. Lay your butt down. Lay down. You don't need to see. Yeah, you hold it. Hold that for me. Oh. Yeah, hold that for me. Yeah. Change your stinking butt. Funky. Yeah, funky. Yep. Funky. Yeah. You can have the jacket on? You're going to take it. It's not staying here. You're going to take this thing out of here, my boy. You understand? You understand? Yes, sir. I'm dirty fingernails. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Daddy. There you go. Hold on. Put the shoes and stuff there. Put your shoes. Put on your left shoe. Your left shoe on your left foot. No. Your left foot, can you say left foot? Left foot. But your right shoe. Your right shoe on your right foot. Your right shoe on your right foot. Come on, boy. Good job, man. So we got a poop on the toilet. Where is the poop supposed to go? In the body? No, in the toilet. Here, go put it in the trash can, please. Go put it in the trash can. Yeah, go put it in the trash can. All right. Somewhere around there. Might do a whole page. All right. All right. So when we look at the Bible, from here to here is the blessing. From here to here is the curses. Yeah. Ooh, boy. Let's read some of these curses. We're going to read some. Shouldn't need to read them out, but let's see. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land. The increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shall be when thou comest in, and cursed shall be when thou goest out. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that in all that thou settest thy hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. The Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with an extreme burning, and with the sword, and with the blasting, and with the mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. And the heat and thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thy soul, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. The Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. And thy carcass shall be meat unto the fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray thee away. The Lord will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the emeroids, and with the scab, and with the itch, whereof thou canst be healed. The Lord shall smite thee with madness, and blindness, and astonishment of heart. And thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. The fruit of the land and all thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always, so that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine enemies, the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see. The Lord shall smite thee in the knees and in the legs, with a sore botch that cannot be healed, from the sole of thy foot unto the top of my head. on the top of thy head. The Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thy fathers, neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. The Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee. Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shalt gather but little in, for the locust shall consume it. Thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but shalt neither drink of the wine nor the grapes, for the worms shall eat them. Thou shalt have olive trees throughout all the coast, but thou shalt not anoint thyself with the oil, for thine oil shall cast his fruit. For thy olive shall cast his fruit. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. All thy trees and fruits of thy land shall the locust consume. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be head, and thou shalt be the tail. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever, because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in a hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, and until he had destroyed thee. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor shall favor the young. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land, until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trustest throughout all the land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all the land, which the Lord thy God had given thee. And thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body, the flesh of thine sons and thy daughters, which the Lord thy God had given thee, in the siege and in the straitness, wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother, toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave, so that he will not give to any of them of his flesh of his children whom he shall eat, because he hath nothing left him in the siege, and in the straitness, wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in all thy gates. The tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of thy foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eye shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter, and toward her young one that cometh out from between her feet, and toward her children which she shall bear, for she shall eat them from from want of all things secretly in the siege and straitness, wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in thy gates. If thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear this glorious and fearful name, the Lord thy God, then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed even great plagues, and of long continence, and sore sickness, and of long continence, or of long continuance. My bad, excuse me. Then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues, and of long continuance, and of sore sickness, and of long continuance. Moreover, will he bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt, which thou was afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee. Also every sickness and every plague, which is not written in this book of the law, them will the Lord bring upon thee until thou be destroyed. And ye shall be left few in number, whereas ye were as stars in the heavens for multitude. Because thou wouldest not obey the voice of the Lord thy God. And it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught. And ye shall be plucked from off of the land whither thou goest to possess it. And the Lord shall scatter thee among the people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there shalt thou serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even of wood and stone. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy feet have rest. But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and a failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life. In the morning thou shalt say, would God it were even. And in the even thou shalt say, would God it were morning. For the fear of thine heart, wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt not see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Woo! Way more curses than it is plagues. On the other hand, Moses made it very explicit that his people, that if they did not obey God's laws, which are conducive to an orderly society, free of crimes, then all these plagues, misfortunes, hardships, and curses shall happen to them until they change and do what is right. Deuteronomy 28:15. On to Deuteronomy 29. Now, before I explain many of the details of the curses, it would behoove me to give you an idea of what the laws of God are. There are 613 Hebrew laws. 613. Which come under different categories. They are all found in the first 5 books of the Bible, which are called the 5 books of Moses. Some people call it the Torah. A brief summary of these laws would be the 10 Commandments. A brief summary of these laws would be the 10 Commandments. It's only a African Hebrews if they should disobey the laws of God. These are 5 categories. Number 1, curse of worldwide dispersal. Number 2, biological curses. Number 3, psychological curses. Number 4, economic curses. And number 5, the curse of the loss of identity or nationality. And that was chapter 2. That was chapter 2. Chapter 2. The Bible, an African book. In the Valley of the Dry Bones by Dr. Rudolphf R.WINDSOR. And we'll come back next time with chapter 3. I don't know if it's going to be a part 1 or a part 2. We'll see. But chapter 3 will be the curses. The curses. And he's going to go through all 5 that he just named. Some of the curses. And ye shall go into Egypt again on ships. Yeah. Well, that's that, man. That's that. Reading with Shilo. We've been on here a little over an hour and 20 minutes. So that was that. I hope that it's something in there, may cause you to think. Something that we can read, or something we can learn and grow from. Something we can learn and grow from. I know it's a lot of stuff I know already, and some of that stuff may be new. Maybe new to you. It may be new to you. But if you didn't know it, maybe you should look into it. Take some things into consideration. Could it be as simple as that? We do what God tells us to do. We hear. We don't do what God tells us to do. We hear. Could it be that simple? That is the question. Could it be that simple? And if it is, should you do? If you want to be here, and the question is that simple, and the answer is that simple, what should you do to be here? And if we already here, what should we do to stay here? Should we keep not doing whatever is our Father has asked of us for a good, orderly society? I think we should do what we're supposed to do. Let's try that. Let's try listening. Let's try listening. Maybe something will work. Yeah, but that's it, man. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Have you heard of it before? Have you thought of it before? Did you know that Moses would be called a nigger? Did you know Moses had skin, dark skin? Moses was a so-called black man. Did you know the person the Bible calls Christ was a so-called black man? John was a so-called black man. Or Yohanan, Jacob, Abraham, all them black people. All black people. The king is here. But yeah, shalom, man. Thank y'all for sticking with me. Until next time, Reading with Shilo. Shilo out.